Great, good morning everyone. My name is Gazmararian. I'm part of PwC's FinTech and Digital Assets team based in Hong Kong. I'm very excited to share with you today the launch of our global blockchain M&A and equity fundraising report. So today I'm going to share 3 key takeaways from this first inaugural edition. And I'm also going to share with you our outlook for the M&A and the fundraising space for the rest of this year. So the digital asset team based in Hong Kong, we are part of a global network. We have digital asset experts and blockchain experts in 25 different locations. So there's many different territories that can help you and various clients with whichever business requirements they have, whether it's tax, accounting, legal, regulatory, you name it, we do it. It's a one-stop shop. But the purpose of today is to launch this report, so without further ado, here is the front page of the report. And as I said, I'm going to take you through 3 key takeaways. The report has data from the full year of 2018 and the first half of 2019. And what we found when we were looking at this data was that the most interesting trends emerged when we compared the first half of 2018 with the first half of 2019. So that's where we're going to show some trends in both the M&A space and the equity fundraising space when it comes to blockchain and digital assets. So you may ask, why did PwC launch a report in blockchain, M&A, and in digital assets and in equity fundraising? And the reason is, I'm sure you, like me, feels bombarded on a daily basis by headlines in the space. We see all of this activity. Every day we're reading emails, reading headlines. But what we really wanted to see is, what is all this data actually telling us? What are these headlines actually telling us? Can we start to see trends emerging in this space? And the good news is, we have done the heavy lifting for you at PwC. Our deals team has looked at the numbers and data sources around the globe to put together this report for you. And no, that's not me in the gym. So as an overall observation, as I go into the 3 key takeaways, what we can see is that as the blockchain industry matures, the size, the type, and the geography of the deals are changing. So what do I mean by geography? Well, when we compare the first half of 2018 with the first half of 2019, perhaps somewhat surprisingly, there has been quite a significant drop in M&A activity and equity fundraising activity in the Americas, which is primarily made up of the US. And correspondingly, we're seeing an increase in deal activity and deal flow in Asia and Europe. In fact, when you combine Asia and Europe together, it's now making up 2/3 of the deal flow activity. So coming on to takeaway number 2. This is looking at direct equity investment in blockchain and digital asset companies. And here we can see that seed round funding, as a percentage of overall types of funding, is reduced from around 65% to 44%. I'm sure you're all familiar, equity fundraising, particularly seed round fundraising, is when a company goes to get external capital for the first time. Typically it's made up of friends and family, angel investors, early stage VC funds. But as it moves from seed round to Series A and B, it's potentially implying that the valuations of these companies are getting larger, the prospects are growing, and the maturity level is rising. And while the average ticket size, which you can see on the right-hand side, is still relatively small, it is nevertheless increased by 50% year on year. And that's actually pretty significant. I mean, at the moment, in order for institutional investors to start really putting a lot of money into this space, we are going to need to see the ticket sizes begin to get bigger and bigger, given that they have huge pots of money to invest, millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions, even billions in some cases. So the equity investment size needs to get larger. Our final takeaway is really zooming in on some trends we're seeing in 2019. So when we're comparing Q1 and Q2 of 2019, we see that on the left-hand side, in terms of M&A activity, in terms of the number of deals, they've increased by 15%. So it's picking up again from a bottom at the end of 2018, when we saw digital asset prices more broadly hit somewhat of a bottom. We also can see that the global deal value has increased by over 50%. So the money is flowing back into the space again as we're moving into 2019. And it's increased by 51%. As you can see, the average deal volume is now $250 million US. So those were the 3 key trends from our inaugural report. We are going to be issuing the report twice a year. So the next one will be out early in 2020. And the longer that we are running the report for, obviously the more year-on-year comparisons we will be able to make. So to recap on the 3 takeaways, deal flow is dropping in the Americas, primarily the US. It is moving to Europe and Asia. We're seeing the funding rounds mature, so seed rounds are reducing, and Series A and B is increasing, and the average ticket size is also increased. And finally, we're seeing a big pickup in M&A and also in equity fundraising in 2019. So I hope you found those key takeaways interesting. We also wanted to provide you with somewhat of an outlook. Looking to the end of the year, what does the rest of 2019 hold for us? And we have 3 key trends that we're looking towards the end of this year. So the first one is that we expect an increase in M&A activity. A lot of companies are looking to acquire and grow their positions. They've got firepower, they've got confidence. Now the prices of digital assets have become more supported coming into 2019. And we're seeing them look to buy businesses rather than grow them themselves organically. Typically, it's faster and strategically it can make a lot of sense. So we're planning to see, or think we're going to see a lot more activity in this space coming into the end of the year. And actually, in terms of the report, in terms of the data that we were looking at, we did drill down to the sector level. So we categorized all the deals by sector as well. And an interesting takeaway in terms of M&A activity, you can see that in 2018, the first half of 2018, the mining sector was seeing a flurry of activity. There was a lot of consolidation in terms of M&A in the mining space. And as we come into 2019, that is actually reduced by about 65%. And correspondingly, over this time, we've seen a pickup in blockchain infrastructure mergers and acquisitions. That's increased by around 30%. And interesting, wallets, M&A in wallet sector has increased by around 50%. So that's a real trend that we also expect to see continue into the end of the year. Second of all, looking forwards, we're expecting an increase in fundraising activity. A lot of institutional investors are now looking to get exposure into the space. And the way that they can do that is by taking a stake in some of these new companies. And as the ticket size starts to get larger, as we saw earlier, and the amount of capital is also increasing as it's moving into this space, it's becoming more and more interesting for institutional investors, we're expecting an increase in fundraising activity. And again, if we drill down to the sector level, we can see that broadly looking across all the different sectors in the digital asset and blockchain space, pretty much all sectors are attracting direct equity investment. But the 3 most popular categories are blockchain infrastructure, exchanges, and trading infrastructure. So it will be interesting to see how sectors play out both in M&A and in equity fundraising as we continue to track at this level. And finally, as we look to the end of 2019, we expect broader institutionalization of the industry. We've already seen a lot of traditional financial services companies start making inroads into the blockchain and digital asset space. I'm sure you're very familiar with the background stories behind many of these names. We've seen Fidelity spin off an entirely new entity in order to offer institutional clients the ability to store, trade, and custody digital assets. We've seen banks like SocGen and Santander issue bonds on a blockchain, so using the new blockchain infrastructure in order to increase the efficiency of traditional financial securities and how, for example, interest is paid to investors directly into wallets. And of course, Facebook came out with their announcement earlier this year. That's put a huge spotlight on the whole industry, which will benefit growth in the space. And I'm not going to name names, but before the end of the year, we're expecting some other very large announcements from either financial institutions or indeed countries. The other interesting trend that we are tracking is the percentage of crypto M&A that is reverse mergers. So what percentage of the M&A activity in the blockchain and digital asset space are being conducted via reverse mergers? I'm sure many of you are familiar with what reverse mergers are. They're a style of capital raising whereby companies will buy listed shell companies in order to access public investment, so larger pool of capital. Listed shell companies that are listed, for example, on the NASDAQ. And the reason why they are buying these shell companies rather than going through the IPO listing route is because many of these companies are very new. They've only been around, they've grown very fast, and they want to access the capital, but many cannot fulfill the IPO listing requirements. They're very stringent requirements. And so the option is to buy a listed shell company and access broader pools of capital that way. And you can see that the price of digital assets really affects the trend in terms of reverse mergers. There were precisely 0 reverse mergers at the end of 2018. So that was right at the bottom in terms of pricing of digital assets. And again, as we're coming into 2019, we're seeing this pick up again. We are also tracking the top M&A deals in the blockchain and digital asset space. And of course, as time goes by, we're going to have more and more years to compare. But from the data set that we have to date, which is full year 2018 and the first half of 2019, you can see that the larger M&A deals took place in 2018. And we're not just seeing M&A activity between digital asset to digital asset companies or blockchain to blockchain. We're also seeing traditional financial services companies come in and acquire digital asset or blockchain companies. So for example, on the list here, you can see Monex Group, which is a Japanese financial services company, and they acquired Coincheck in Japan. So there's a lot of different types of M&A deals happening. So we have a very positive, it's a rosy outlook in terms of our view in how we're going to end 2019 and going beyond that. And the great news is that PwC has a globally integrated deals team which is there to support you with every aspect of either your M&A or equity fundraising deal. They can help you identify an acquisition target, they can help you with your overall funding strategy, right through to M&A advisory services, such as how do you value these new companies. Operational assessments, legal, tax support, they can really help you at every step. And even once you have integrated, the deal has been done, the team can help you with integration, how you bring those two companies together, both operationally but also from a cultural perspective as well. So the team is really there to help you realize value in your business. So I hope that has been helpful. Today I've just shared with you 3 key takeaways and our outlook for the rest of the year. But if you would like to scan the QR code, the full report with much more data is included. It will take you through to our PwC website, so please feel free to scan that report. There is so much activity happening. We're really watching this space, and we hope that by mapping these key trends, providing you with industry insights, will really help you and your business. So with that, thank you very much for your time and attention, and I'll be around for the remainder of the conference for any further questions or discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.